So that's the final look. It's a raku pot actually. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm taping the pot in strategic areas, getting it ready for a raku firing. You can see a little closer, you can see the tape on there. And so these are examples of ones that have already been taped. These are sort of geometric in design. And I got a smaller one here as well. So I got a raku firing coming up. It's a low fire process done outdoors. And so I prep the pots by putting on this tape because the tape acts as a resist to the glazes that are placed on it. So wherever you have a piece of tape, it's going to be black. So in this case, you can see that I've actually ran the tape, this triangular pattern, all the way around, and I also ran it around the top to get that same effect. And anybody out there who's actually done raku kind of understands it all, but it's a low firing process. We use a kiln. It's outdoors. It goes into the kiln. It comes out and it's put into a can to contain the smoke. The smoke creates the crackle effect that you see in the pot. And so for this one, I am continuing to tape. I have a couple of others actually that I can show you. Let's see here. Working on some berry balls. This one is a raku as well. And again, I use tape on that. This one is also a raku, much larger, with the different effects that can be created using the tape to create those blackened stripes that you see. This is also a raku. Which is sort of a clear. These are actually naked rakus. This is a different effect altogether. And a similar one here. This is what they call naked raku. It's just a different process. When you read up on it, you can understand the effects. But you get some really cool stuff. So as I said, I'm getting ready for a firing coming this Sunday. So I'm prepping these pots here to get them ready for the firing in my messy studio. That's usually where I do my wheel throwing. So I threw all of these pots on the wheel. For anybody out there who actually has thrown on the wheel, you are probably familiar with that process. And so now what I'm doing is figuring out where I want to put the tape. So I'm going to start by actually running tape right down the front of this pot. And again, wherever I put the tape, it will be a black line. So after the glaze is put on that, I actually rip off the tape and before it goes into the firing. And because it's geometric, I'm trying to make this as equal as I can. So I'm going to use a tape measure here to figure out the distance thereabouts. So it's about 19. So I'm going to go about halfway around. These measuring tapes are what people use a lot of times with fabric design. So I think I'm right about there. Looks good. Pencil marks. The pencil marks actually burn off in the raku process, so you can draw all over these pots. So you can write down the colors that you're going to use for your glazes, and that way it just burns right off in the firing. Not the glaze, just the pencil lines. All right, so I know that I want to put a line down this way, and I want to try to get this line as straight as possible. So I'm just going to kind of guess. I can always move the tape around too. So once I put the tape on, if I decide that it's crooked, that's pretty good. If I do say so myself. Not bad. Okay, this side's a little crooked though. So there's room to correct mistakes. So I'm going to just run this tape back up. You can do that a couple of times without worry of the tape not sticking anymore. And you can use an X-Acto knife also to actually correct areas where the tape may have gone over where you want it to be. And then you can just remove that. So that's it. And then when I come back, after I do the firing, I'm going to come back and show the examples of the different pots that I have. So you might be thinking, well, how do you know where you're going to put the tape? And so that's a good question. That's why you see me kind of turning the pot and looking at it. I'm trying to get an idea as to what I want to do. And I'm thinking that I want to divide the space again equally. So I'm going to go back and use my tape measure. There's probably a different name for this thing. So it's about 4.5. So I'm going to map that out before I put the tape on. And good, 9 inches on this side. So we're going to go about 4.5. So I've made my marks where I want the tape to go. I don't need to put a line down on the bottom. I'm going to just eyeball it, if you will. By the way, I have different widths of tape here. So I'm using different widths of tape. I've got a thinner, and I got this medium and a little bit wider, depending on what kind of design I want to create. And I think I'm going to stick with this one, which is a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch for this particular pot. And as with any roll of tape, finding the end is always the most difficult. So I know where my lines are, so I'm going to run the tape down. And so a little hard to see on cam, but I'm just running my tape where I want it to be. And then just tearing it off on the bottom. I'm a little crooked here, so I can just straighten that out. And again, I'm doing a raku. I'm preparing a raku pot for a raku firing. And so if you didn't see before, this is the finished process. What one of the finished pots looks like after going through a raku firing. This is a ceramic pot. And I've designed others here geometrically with tape, just to kind of give you an idea of how I map that out.